There is a secret interface inside your mind that has been feeding you information your entire life, and you've been ignoring it. I'm not talking about gut feelings. I'm not talking about something vague or mystical. I'm talking about an actual structure, like an internal teleprompter, that receives names, images, answers, and guidance from a spectrum of intelligence that most people don't even know exists. In this episode, I'm going to give you the full masterclass on intuition, what this interface actually is, how to activate it, why it gets exponentially more powerful around other people, and how to use it as your secret invisible advantage in business, in relationships, and in life. Because when this comes online, you gain access to a level of intelligence that most people would call superhuman. Welcome to the Intuition Masterclass. I was having a conversation with my coach the other day, and she said, man, you have such an extraordinarily well-developed intuition. She said, you should teach this to other people. And so I walked away from that conversation, and like everything, I analyzed it, obsessed about it, and then designed a framework around it. And what I realized is that each and every one of us has the capacity to view an extra set of information that we normally ignore. But that extra set of information is so valuable because it's coming from a place that is outside of time and space. So I will do my best to explain this. What we refer to this as is intuition. We talk about, hunches or gut feelings or inclinations. But what became very clear to me is that there is an internal screen, that's the best way I would describe it, that images, words, phrases appear on. Think about it as looking through the front windshield. Most of us are driving the vehicle of our life looking straight ahead, through our eyes, through our five senses. But there's a side window, or really a side mirror, that gives us access to information that is normally not on the front screen. And it's really important, that information, because it is a 360-degree perspective on reality. Most of the time, we're just paying attention to what we think. And neuroscience tells us that we basically think the same thoughts over and over and over and over again. But on this internal teleprompter is new information. I'm going to describe my experience of this by way of a story. Every year I have my annual event, the Powerful Living Experience. Over 1,000 high performers, impact-driven people, leaders, moms, dads, entrepreneurs come into a room to work on themselves for 3 days. And during the course of that event, people will stand up in the audience and I'll coach them live. And they can present all kinds of different things, everything from feeling like there's not enough time, to being in financial insecurity, to being sexually abused or physically abused when they were children, or being abandoned, or experiencing something horrific like the murder of a loved one. I never know what's going to come up in the room, but every single time a powerful conversation unfolds. And there are two reasons for that. The first reason is I'm coaching with a framework. So I'm not just getting up there with my helping hat on trying to do good in the world. We've taken the time to really understand the mechanics, the science of limiting beliefs and traumas and how they show up in our lives. So I'm able to ask questions utilizing a framework, so it doesn't really matter what shows up in the room, the framework handles it. But the other thing that takes place is there's another set of information. There's almost like a voice in my head as I'm coaching someone that I've learned to pay attention to as much as I'm paying attention to what they're saying. And that voice in my head, or that inner screen, gives me questions, indicates what someone said that I should really focus on, allows me to make some strong observations about what might be going on with them and to verify with them, and 99% of the time it's correct. And I've taken that inner screen into the rest of my life. So when I'm having a business conversation or I'm having a conversation with a friend, there's always information coming through the screen, and we all have access to this screen. You've used this screen before. You've seen the information, but whether you've acted on the information is something different. It's possible that even as we're having this conversation right now, you're having thoughts. And the mistake we make is that we think we're having thoughts rather than we're being fed information. There are memories that are occurring for you as we're having this conversation. There are other things that you're learning in your journey of personal growth or out in your life that are coming to mind. And these connections are very, very important. There are questions that are arising that are directing you towards solutions and answers that could be valuable for you. In other words, there are always two conversations taking place when you're interfacing with life. There's the conversation that's right in front of you and what we would call your third dimensional reality. And there's a conversation that's streaming in from the fourth dimension. There's a conversation that is streaming in through this inner screen, this inner teleprompter, if you want to describe it as the side window. And what I'm suggesting is that that information is extremely valuable. That information will inform you whether or not you should move forward with a business opportunity or a relationship. Your egoic mind will say, well, it's been so long since I've been going out with someone that I really want to go out with this person. But really that's driven by desperation. Your intuition will tell you something different. I mean, how many times have you met someone or taken action on something and then you look back and you're like, you know what, my intuition was telling me something. If I had just followed my intuition. And that's because there are always two stories taking place simultaneously. There's the regurgitation of this, wonderful processing tool called your brain that becomes influenced by your emotions, your traumas, your limiting beliefs, which we would call the ego. There's that interface, which is through the windshield. And then there's your intuition. So we want to start paying more attention to our intuition. I'm going to share with you what my process is by the time we get to the end of this episode. Now, one of the interesting things is that our intuition is powerful when we are on our own. It's good to have, I wouldn't call it alone time, but time by yourself. There have been times, I'm sure, where you've been walking in nature and you have an idea or the solution to a problem occurs for you because you've cut off all the external stimuli that's constantly replaying the same old types of thoughts over and over again. Or you're getting a really good workout in. You've got all those endorphins and these positive neurochemicals taking place in your body and you're feeling good, dopamine, endorphins, and you have an idea. And you're not really thinking the thoughts, the idea occurs for you. You're driving from point A to point B, you're playing some really inspiring music, and then all of a sudden you have this inclination to call someone. I want you to start to notice that that's occurring in a space inside of you. Again, for me, it's sort of off to the right of my head, but also still sort of inside of me. It's the best way I can describe it. I think of it as a little whiteboard or a teleprompter. Sometimes people might describe it as feeling it in their gut or feeling it in their heart. That may be true. That may be where the information gets processed. But what Napoleon Hill taught was, and I think it was his most powerful principle, it was the Mastermind principle. And Napoleon studied the 300 most successful people in the history of the world. And he identified 13 things that the most successful people in the world did to be successful, create wealth, accumulate power, build influence. The central tenet of what he discovered was that your thoughts are things and they create your reality. But the core principle, the most powerful principle he discovered was called the Mastermind principle. And the Mastermind principle said that the most successful people in the world, they got together in groups of 2, 3, 4, 5 or more. And as a byproduct of that, a super mind emerged. A mind that did not exist when those people were in isolation. In Scripture, Jesus describes it as something along the lines of, when more than two come in my name, there too is the Father. And so it's this idea that when more than one person gathers, our soul, our consciousness connects. We become connected to another spirit. Spirit is a very high vibrational energy, and it's almost like a battery. As two or more people get together, you create a superconductor. And so the receptivity is increased. So when you're with other people who are thinking about the same types of things that you're thinking about, striving to achieve the same types of things that you're striving to achieve, there's a heightened receptivity that occurs amongst the group. Not only that, other people hold or have the capacity to receive the images, the thoughts, the hunches that are trying to make their way to you, and they can springboard from those people over to you. In other words, you and I might be getting together, and you have some challenge in your business that you're trying to solve, or something that's happening in your job or your career, and you haven't been able to solve it. But I may hold, through my own experience and also my own receptivity, an image or a thought or a hunch or a name that you're wanting or needing to access. But for some reason, you're not receptive, you're not in alignment, you're not coherent to that information. But when we get together, that information can springboard from me to you. Hey, real quick, it's David interrupting myself. We are opening up a few spots on our calendar for coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, and service providers who are serious about growing their business this year and interested in working directly with me and my team. So our programs are by application only. We're extremely selective about who we work with, but if you want me, my coaches, and our team of experts who are actively in the trenches building our business every day to become your strategic advisors as you're growing and scaling, click the link in the show notes or go to davidbusinessplan.com to apply and schedule a call. So we'll explore if working together is a fit and help you create a plan for more predictability, more cash flow, and more impact this year using the same proven frameworks behind over 1,000 plus client success stories and over $50 million in revenue in our own business. So spots are limited. Check out the link, schedule your call, and now back to the episode. This is why people like John D. Rockefeller were able to create such extraordinary things in their lives. If you think about it, this was a time in the late 1800s, early 1900s. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have artificial intelligence. We didn't have telephones. We didn't have email. And yet, this guy was able to essentially take over the energy infrastructure of the world and create a level of wealth that is never been seen since, right? $1 billion in actual wealth over 100 years ago. And if you study his life, there's a wonderful biography called Titan by Ron Chernow, who does these incredible biographies. You see that John D. Rockefeller leveraged the power of the mastermind. So he would mastermind with JP Morgan, with Flagler, with some of the other powerful industrialists at that time. Even within his organization, the way they conducted their board meetings was effectively a mastermind. Because when you're with other people, your receptivity increases, and they can oftentimes pass information on to you that you are having a challenge accessing on your own. Now, I'm not talking about hanging out with just anybody, right? If you go hang out with, the people smoking pot on the corner, you're going to get smoking pot on the corner energy. And so if you're looking for smoking pot on the corner solutions, then, go hang out with those folks. So it is important that you find people who are like-minded. Again, just even in that phrase, right? They are like-minded. They are people who have tuned their minds and their vibration towards the things that you are wanting to achieve. So intuition, which is this extraordinary tool, if we want to develop it more, one of the keys to doing that is to actually spend time with other folks who are moving in the same direction that you are. If you think about it, that's how we get good at anything. If I got good at my drug and alcohol and sex addiction recovery because I hung out with other people in recovery, that's just practical, right? But you get into a recovery vibration, you start to have recovery thoughts, right? And recovery thoughts are not let's go party thoughts. If you want to get good at, a martial art like jujitsu, you go and you hang out with other jujitsu practitioners. That's how you get good at it. If you want to get good at, entrepreneurship, living your purpose, mastering your mindset, you come and you hang out with my people, right? You're my people. You get together and we spend time together in an environment because that activates and heightens our receptivity, and it starts to build and shape our intuition. There's a lot of conversation today around AI glasses. You can put these glasses on and eventually you'll be able to, read people's biometrics. You can see like what people are wearing. What article of clothing is that? Oh, it's, it's a Gucci belt. Okay, cool. And, you click on it with your eyeballs and then go buy it on, online. That's really cool, right? It's really useful. I'd be able to look at a tree and know what kind of tree it is. But I think what we're talking about here is supernatural intelligence. That's artificial intelligence. This is supernatural intelligence. If you ask me if I would prefer artificial intelligence or supernatural intelligence, I'll take supernatural intelligence every single day, because supernatural intelligence has access to the field of information that has not yet crystallized in our reality. Artificial intelligence doesn't have that. The Hindus, they talked about the Akasha, this field, this unified field that permeates all things. In quantum theory, I think it's probably the boson field, which ties everything together and has within it all information, all ideas that have ever existed of all time. I want access to that. That makes the internet looks like, an Atari. So, and the good news is we all have access to this information. I don't know if you've ever seen people. I know a lot of people in our community follow Abraham Hicks. I do. Phenomenal teacher of this period of time. This woman, Esther Hicks, she channels the teachings of Abraham, which is predominantly around vibration and law of attraction. There's definitely some overlap between Abraham's work and my work in relationship to non-resistance and being non-resistant. But what Esther Hicks basically does is she sits down and she relaxes and she lets that inner screen, that inner teleprompter completely take over. It becomes the windshield. And then she speaks, or she allows Abraham to speak through her. That's channeling. Channeling is not much different than intuition. Channeling is just surrendering yourself fully to the information that is coming through the side window and pushing yourself and the windshield to the back. But everyone has this capacity. And so my encouragement is to practice this. If you're like, Dave, I want this. Dave, yes, I know that I've tapped into this before. I never really thought about developing it. You can develop it. I just did an episode on the pineal gland, which some might argue is also the nerve bundle that is responsible for the information that's coming through our intuitive capacity. Again, some people say it's in the gut. Some people say that it's in the heart. I think that's interesting. It's less important, but it can be developed. And if you want to develop it, you just start practicing it like anything else, right? Number one, as I mentioned before, be with people, right? But whether you're with people or whether you're on your own, now that we've had this conversation, pay attention to the inner teleprompter. Pay attention to that side window or that side mirror and the information that's coming through, and start to have the courage to act on it. Sometimes it's actually saying something in the moment or asking a question in the moment. Sometimes it's doing something with the information later. I've had experiences where I was speaking to someone. This was actually someone who was a professional services provider for me. She just lost her husband, and I got a message from the husband. It came through the inner teleprompter, and I was like, "Hey, I know this sounds a little bit weird, but like, here's what I'm getting." And I gave her the message, and it called her a particular name, and she's like, "Holy shit! Like that's the name he called me." Pay attention to the information, and have the courage to act on it. Ask questions. I think that's one of the reasons why we've had. There's many, many reasons, but one of the reasons why I've had the success that I've had in my life is because I trust the information as it's coming through. So I say the things, I ask the questions, even when it might feel risky or feel uncomfortable. And I'm always shown that it was the right thing to do. And that's helped me build a relationship and trust with the information as it's coming through. And that's how I'm able to be in front of 1,000 people and not be afraid to ask a question or make an assertion. But you have the same capacity. There's no difference between my capacity and your capacity, except that I've been aware of it for a while and I've practiced it and I've used it, and you can start using it too. So if this masterclass on intuition opened up a new way of seeing, again, no pun intended for you, try something this week. Like I said, the next conversation, notice what appears on the periphery, right? Could be an image, could be a word, could be a phrase, could be a knowingness. Don't dismiss it, right? And if you feel called, share it, see what happens. And if you want to go deeper, head on over to davidbear.com, drop your email, get immediate access to my free Mind Hack ebook and my training series. When you clear the noise, the screen starts working, and that free series will help you understand the fundamentals of how to do that. And if you're ready for the full system, check out our Mind Hack program and my Whole Human Framework course. There are links in the show notes in the description. One of the most common things people report is their intuition starts to really come alive, right? Their decisions sharpen, their guidance appears that wasn't there before. That's the screen coming online. And if this changed something, do me a favor, share it, pay it forward. There are people in your life dismissing the most powerful guidance system they have, and they don't even know that it exists. Oh, and subscribe. Join me on the journey, because personal growth is not a do-it-yourself project. It was never supposed to be. Thank you for spending your time, your energy with me. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next episode.